It's come to my attention recently that Marvel has been making some moves. After quite a bit of silence since their abomination of a show that was more about diversity hiring than actual storytelling that came out in January, we haven't really heard much from them. Until Comic-Con in San Diego this year, where only 4 movies were talked about, and no TV shows, surprisingly. I've been hearing rumors for a while that the new direction of the shows and movies wasn't really impressing Kevin Feige, and that he had been quietly making moves to change the direction of the MCU. As it turns out, pandering and fourth wave feminism really doesn't pay when it comes to the goodwill of the fans. A lot of studio execs were let go who had, shall we say, activist leanings, and while I doubt that Feige will ever be able to entirely clean house, the next moves proved to be interesting. Namely, the return of the Russo brothers, who had always seemed to have more success within the MCU than away from it, and that of Robert Downey Jr. in the role of Doctor Doom. I had mixed feelings about this second revelation, because the last thing I wanted was for the MCU to become a parody of itself. I heard once that the Marvel Cinematic Universe will be dead when they start bringing back legacy characters because they have no new ideas. It would be the death of creativity for the world, and everyone but the execs would know it. Bringing him back as Doctor Doom is an interesting choice, though, because not only is Doom one of Marvel's greatest villains, he's also one of the most interesting. So for the time being, I am content to wait and see what Marvel has planned. You know who isn't an interesting villain, however? Agatha Harkness. It's a shame because Kathryn Hahn is a pretty good actress, and if the evolution of Marvel had made me a less jaded and cynical person, I might have been more interested in seeing a show that featured her. Marvel has, in the past, had a good track record with introducing characters that the average moviegoer knew nothing about and turning them into household names. Not so anymore, because characters like Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Ironheart, Echo, and now Agatha Harkness were characters that you had to dig through Marvel's Rolodex to find. And instead of discovering an interesting new character that would only add to Marvel's concentrated storyline and overall plan for their line of movies, we have this. Agatha Harkness first appeared on screen in WandaVision, a show that came out over 3 years ago and was so morally twisted that a lot of us were left disgusted despite some of the good lines from the show like,
"I've never experienced loss because I've never had a loved one to lose. But what is grief? If not love, persevering."
which weren't nearly enough to distract from lines like,
Monica, she blasted you halfway across New Jersey.
And I survived because she chose to protect me.
She's holding thousands of people hostage.
And it could have been thousands more if she hadn't put up her own quarantine.
nothing like the reminder that mind enslavement is only bad when it affects tens of thousands and not thousands. I really do miss the days when Marvel morals were clear and unimpeachable. And after a fantastic light show that was just a cover for Wanda's true power to be put on full display, Agatha, who coveted her power of chaos, was locked away in her own mind, and all of us were certain that this was a one-and-done villain. Apparently not, because 3.5 years after she made her first appearance in the show, Agatha is back, somehow in her right mind again, and on some sort of journey of self-actualization in order to get her powers back. Can I just say that I hate these types of stories? These days, it seems as if the only sort of story that can be told about a female character is the story of self-actualization. It began with Captain Marvel and really has yet to stop since. Every new female character's story is all about discovering how awesome she is, and any sequels are about the depth of her new awesomeness. And Agatha All Along will be no different. From what I have seen thus far, Agatha's solo series will be about her regaining her powers and her memories with the help of some random teenager, and of course a whole coven of witches that are going to be quirky and weird and no doubt another representation of girl power in all its glorious forms. In some ways, this doesn't really feel like a Marvel product, given just how far removed it is from the main storyline of the MCU. But in some ways, I feel as if that's why Marvel can get away with it now, or at least try to get away with it. The MCU is in a state of flux right now with the elimination of Kang the Conqueror, and the main storyline has really yet to start. And this certainly isn't going to kickstart or revitalize the MCU in any way from what I've seen. Agatha All Along looks to be the MCU's most boring show to date, whereas Echo enraged the 10 people who did watch it with desecration of Kingpin in favor of a strong, diverse female character. Agatha All Along looks to be some sort of fever dream a person would have if they ever crossed LSD and candy corn. Now, in theory, the story of Agatha Harkness might have been an interesting one if she had been introduced far earlier, back when Marvel had the goodwill of the fans and the heroes were all still around, and there was no multiverse nonsense, and storylines still made sense, and every plot wasn't either focused around power or self-actualization. But the entire theme of this show is based around a character that we need to be reminded of in a ridiculous amount of exposition because it's been so long since we've seen her, getting her powers back and solving some sort of murder mystery that none of the general audience really cares about anyway. So I'll ask the question that everyone seems to be asking when it comes to this show. Who is this for, exactly? Is there hype around the character of Agatha Harkness? Is there interest in her story? Or are the execs really just banking on this show being about one thing and bringing in a crowd based on headlines like these? I have so many questions as a follow-up to this, particularly from this interview with Aubrey Plaza.
I've seen the first episode, but Agatha is the gayest Marvel project yet. Do you agree?
It better be, because that's what I signed up for. I think it is.
Gayer and gayer as each episode goes.
Yes, darling, but I can't tell you how. It will be a gay explosion by the end of it.
It's really telling to me that Marvel shows are now ranked from good to bad based on how far up or down the diversity scale they appear on. Does anyone else not find this strange? We have ceased to ask questions about characters and motivations and plot lines, and instead begun framing inquiries in a way that fits the present-day mindset of Hollywood and Los Angeles proper. Why is this even a relevant question, honestly? Why is this the only thing on people's minds when it comes to inquiries about the show? Is it because the show has nothing else to offer in the way of storytelling, character development, writing, and dialogue, or acting? Or are the interviewers just being given questions to ask in order to divert questions away from the potential lack of the former? Or is this a defense maneuver for the showrunners to point fingers at the audience who inevitably will not watch it as some sort of childish distraction technique? I know which one I think it is, but I'm open to hearing your opinions. In the end, Agatha All Along looks like a poorly written and contrived fever dream with far too much color saturation and computer-generated images with no story to tell beyond the main character coming into her own power and a cast of characters who are only there to nod along and distract from the lack of substance that the show is all but screaming that it has. But that's just my opinion. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to tell me everything you think about Agatha All Along in the comments below, and let the conversations begin. Until next time, everyone.